Look, what's weird, 4 days out, and this is this weird place I'm at, where I'm happy, I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, I like our chances, I like the way things are going, because nothing, let's be blunt here, nothing is going right for Kamala Harris. And yet the other side looks at numbers, oh, Daily Beast, don't pay any attention to the polls, she's going to win, and she's going to win big. First woman of color. We're going to have an Indian black female commander-in-chief. It's going to happen. History. Jason Miller, president's top campaign spokesman, President Trump, on Fox News, stating the obvious that all the momentum, and you can't dispute this, all the momentum is going Donald Trump and the Republicans' way.
The mail-in voting requests, especially for people who voted by mail for the first time in 2020, have completely dropped out. I mean, the floor has just fallen out from underneath them. And we're also seeing massive turnout for Republicans for early voting. And of course, we saw where the Republican Party was able to keep the Bucks County early voting open for a couple extra days to make sure that everybody is able to vote regardless of party. All the momentum in Pennsylvania is going toward President Trump right now.
It feels good. I like the polling showing Pennsylvania possibly going red and voting for Donald Trump. But then again, do you trust those polls? I've seen polls that show Kamala Harris winning Pennsylvania by 2 or 3 points. Let's get into some numbers. If you're following the numbers, and let's face it, like it or not, we all kind of are. Roger P. Schulman is in our newsroom. We're going to get the latest from one of the greatest newsmen in America. We'll get an update on polling numbers, on the early voting numbers, what it looks like. I also love what Elon Musk said about all the states, all the blue states that don't allow voter ID when you go vote. Election integrity, anyone? 800-655-MIKE.
Breaking now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
So the very important jobs number was released this morning, and it's a catastrophe for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. The Harris economy added only 12,000 jobs in October. It's incredibly dismal. Look, we're going to be in a full-blown recession next year if Trump doesn't win. You think they know what they're doing with the economy? You think things are going well under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden? Are we going to possibly, light ourselves on fire by voting for more of this? 12,000 jobs? And watch how the mainstream media refuses to cover this. I am so disgusted by the corruption of the news media. I know people like my friend Roger P. Schulman just must, and I'm not going to put him on the spot and ask him when he joins us here in a minute or two, but he's a newsman's newsman. Nora O'Donnell is a complete hack. I got to play this before we bring Roger in and talk about numbers and polling and where we are 4 days before the election. Check every night now on the CBS Evening News. They are opening with a Kamala Harris campaign ad and a slur against Trump and the Republicans. This is every night on the CBS Evening News. Here's the most recent example.
Both campaigns are locking their focus on the battleground states. Vice President Kamala Harris rallied in North Carolina and Pennsylvania today and is in Wisconsin tonight. Former President Donald Trump was in North Carolina earlier and tonight is also in Wisconsin. He landed in Green Bay just a short time ago and then pulled this campaign stunt, speaking to reporters from a garbage truck. Proof that he and his supporters are giving no grace to a gaffe by President Biden, where he, in his explanation, inadvertently called Trump supporters garbage. This, of course, was in response to that racist joke about floating garbage told at a Trump rally just last weekend. Vice President Harris is distancing herself from the negativity and trying to drive home her unifying message that if elected, she will represent all Americans.
Now that's the lady who sits in the chair Walter Cronkite used to sit in. That's the anchor of the CBS Evening News. That's complete sheer propaganda. Kamala's trying to be unifying. Trump is a racist. He giving no grace to Joe. Grace? 5 days before an election, you think that they're giving Trump any grace? Have they ever given Trump grace for anything? You're going to use the word grace in the CBS Evening News? You cannot make this crap up. That is Pravda-level propaganda. And, hey, a few million people watch the CBS Evening News. Wonder how Norah O'Donnell is going to tap dance her way out of the U.S. jobs report that is catastrophically lower than expected. 12,000 jobs added. And incidentally, spare me it's the hurricane. Yeah, I know that Florida, the Southeast, the Carolinas got hammered by Helene and Milton. There are 50 states in America. Most states didn't have any impact from the hurricane whatsoever. That doesn't explain 12,000 piddly jobs added to the economy last month. It's catastrophic news for Kamala Harris. And this gives voters the final look at the economy before you go into, for people who haven't early voted. You're now seeing how catastrophic the Biden-Kamala Harris economy is. Nothing is going right for her. Or is it? Let's check in with our newsman for the Mike Gallagher Show. 860 AM The Answer in Tampa Bay's Roger P. Schulman, who's been at this a long time. Mr. Schulman, sir, good to see you. Give us an update on polling, early voting. I mean, I voted in Pinellas County the other day. The line was pretty substantial, even in the evening. I think early voting is setting records all over America, isn't it?
It really is. I went to one of the polling places, and it looked like the general election day. The poll was so long, I turned around and went somewhere else and voted another day. But, yeah, it is very vigorous as far as early voting. We've got 161 million voters who are registered in the United States. 55 million of them have already voted in early voting around the country. In Florida, for instance, we've got 13 million voters. 6.5 million, half of them, have already voted. And as of the latest Atlas poll, Michael, former President Trump maintains a 1.9% lead in the national popular vote, while Kamala Harris support numbers have remained virtually unchanged since she started. Trump has a 49.1% of the popular vote, Harris 47.2%. Atlas Intel conducted this interview between yesterday and the day before. They interviewed 3,490 likely voters across the United States. Margin of error plus or minus 2%. As far as important swing states, the Atlas poll shows significant leads for Mr. Trump in Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona. Nevada, Wisconsin, and North Carolina show differences of less than 1 percentage point between the candidates. Now, CNN says they're too close to call. Harris and Trump are campaigning in Wisconsin right now, a very important swing state with just 4 days before Election Day. And something else I've noticed, you don't see as many yard signs and car stickers as you used to, because people on both sides, particularly the Democratic side, have been getting nasty with people over this. A lot of families are even divided because of this election.
Roger, I want to put you on the spot. I announced that we've signed you to be our newsman, and when there's breaking news, we're going to go to our newsroom, and you're down the hall from me, and I have tremendous respect for you. You've been at this many, many years. You're a veteran newsman. You're one of the most highly respected news reporters and anchors in America. You've been on the radio many, many years, and now joining us here on TV as well with Salem News Channel. Do you have the level of dismay that I have with the way journalists like Norah O'Donnell, David Muir, you look at all of these folks in even the Washington Post, the New York Times, none of us knew the politics of Walter Cronkite. None of us knew the politics of Johnny Carson. And yet
I was going to mention that. I used to watch Cronkite. You had no idea where he stood. He just gave you the straight facts. Now it is horrible, and the mainstream media is respected less than Congress, which isn't respected that much, and it shows in the ratings. It used to be that everybody watched the 6 o'clock news. Now, most of the younger people are getting their political information from TikTok, which is not a good thing, but it seems to be the fact. They're getting it off the internet and getting a lot of questionable information. But yes, we are not doing a good job as the mainstream media. I'm going to put an exception mark with Salem Media. That's one of the reasons I've stayed here for 10 years, because we do it right.
We really do. I mean, that's why we're proud to get to do this every day. And make no mistake, if Kamala wins, I'm not sure they won't be coming after us. They might look what they're trying to do now to Elon Musk over on X. Yeah. Look at how they're trying to deplatform. This week, the New York Times and the Washington Post did a hit piece on a bunch of popular conservative YouTube people on YouTube, Ben Shapiro and Michael Knowles and all these people trying to screech about election interference and all that. They're trying to drudge that all up again. I mean, Roger, let me play a clip for you from Jesse Waters last night on Fox News, because the mainstream media, there is a transformation going on. There is a realignment, and fewer people are counting on CBS, ABC, NBC. Here's what Jesse said last night about a Trump victory putting a nail in the coffin, the final nail in the coffin of the mainstream media.
There are a lot of sweaty palms and nail biting in newsrooms across the East Coast because a Trump victory would be the final nail in the media's coffin. An anonymous TV executive admitting if half the country has decided that Trump is qualified to be president, that means they're not reading any of this media. And we've lost this audience completely. A Trump victory means mainstream media is dead in its current form. They're fessing up that their mission is to influence you, not inform you. No one believes them. They lost their juice, and they think they're dying. What they don't realize is they've been dead for years. 3 networks and 3 papers choosing the politicians, those days are long gone. Today, we have cable, talk radio, podcasts, social media. We debunk the hoaxes before the networks can air them.
Roger P. Schulman, is Jesse Waters right?
He's right on the mark. I hate to say it, but he is. And it's sad to see such a institution in America that did provide so much information and education and entertainment for so many years is actually dying on the vine. And it's their own fault, because people know that they don't have enough money to go out and have dinner anymore because it costs $200 for a couple of people to go to a nice restaurant. They know that they can't fill their cars with gasoline anymore. They know that they can't take a vacation in Disney because it costs too much unless you make $300,000 a year. So people realize that things are not going the way that the media wants them to think.
And incidentally, this is coming from a guy who's not exactly a rookie. How long have you been a newsman, Roger P. Schulman?
Do I have to tell you? Since high school, that would be 62 years.
Wow. Gosh. You've been at this a long time, my friend. It's fantastic, and that's why we're honored to have you on our team. Thanks, Roger. Appreciate you joining us very much. Roger P. Schulman in our newsroom, and we'll be checking in with Roger regularly in the months and years to come. We're very proud to have him on our team as our official news anchor. I was reading in the New York Post about these polls, and then I promise we'll go to your phone calls. There's a pollster named Nate Silver. Nate Silver has always been regarded as one of the finest pollsters in America, and he lashed out at other pollsters claiming that they're cheating in the final days of the election, recycling some results in order to keep the race between Trump and Kamala close. Now, he doesn't have it close. Nate Silver's model puts Trump ahead of Harris 55 to 45%. As voters are getting ready to head to the voting booth here on Election Day or during early voting. He's the founder of 538. He said irresponsible pollsters are herding their numbers. Herding, Herding. That means you use past results to affect current ones. On his podcast, Nate Silver said, "I kind of trust pollsters less." And he called out Emerson College. Every time a pollster says, "Oh, every state is +1, every single state's a tie." No, you're effing herding, he said. You're cheating. You're cheating. Your numbers aren't all going to come out at exactly 1-point leads when you're sampling 800 people over dozens of surveys. You're lying. You're putting your effing finger on the scale. So, look, there's one pollster, Nate Silver, founder of 538, who, again, has got Trump winning easily, 55 to 45%, saying they're just trying to put their finger on the scale and they're lying in order to try to keep it close. It does seem very peculiar that many of these polls have it like a dead heat. How could there be a dead heat between these two wildly different night and day presidential candidates. 800-655-MIKE, 800-655-6453. Don't forget our election night coverage. I'll be in Washington, D.C. at the Heritage Foundation. I'll be co-hosting with my friend and colleague Larry Elder. We'll be on the Salem News Channel. We'll be on hundreds of stations all over the country. Don't forget our podcast, The Week in Review, becoming one of the most popular podcasts we offer every day. But we also have all kinds of unique content. You can go to MikeOnline.com and find out where our podcast is, find out more about Salem News Channel, all things Team Gallagher at MikeOnline.com.